What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 347 of Opinions May Vary. I am your host, JR. My co-host with me, Alex.
Hello.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
It has been a long time.
It secretly has.
It's like, it feels a lot different, like the atmosphere.
Yeah. It's lighter now.
Yeah. And it's also darker all the time. All the time.
Spooky month is over.
Spooky month is over.
We're done talking about scary things and creepy things.
We're in daylight savings, right? It's now daylight savings.
Yeah.
Do I have that right?
Yeah.
You'd think after 30 years I'd be used to this, but it's still misery. Anyways, joining us this week is Mr. Marc Lapierre. Marc, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me.
We're here to talk about some really neat stuff today because, Marc, you do the arts.
Mm-hmm. I make the arts.
You make the arts on a thing.
On the internet.
One of our favorite things is to talk to people about their Kickstarters because we love to support people and cool stuff. Honestly, you guys don't even need us because you guys have already smashed your goal. But we're going to talk about it anyways. Yeah. But thanks so much for coming on. How's it going?
That's good. Yeah, nice weather out today.
I picked up the leaves today. Yeah.
I woke up frustrated because I picked up leaves yesterday, and then a storm came, and there's more leaves now.
Yeah.
There's so many leaves, and your trees are empty though. But somehow
Where'd
there's
they come
leaves.
from?
Yeah,
it's why people fight their neighbors sometimes.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. My neighbor's tree hangs over into my yard.
Yeah,
and it takes my tree is already done.
Yeah,
every tree in the area is done.
Yeah,
but this tree is nah, I'm gonna hang on for a bit. So I can do the leaves in the yard, but I just know that in 2 weeks I'm going to be doing it again. And it's been a lot of fun this year. I am 32. It's a lot of fun being in my 30s and picking up leaves.
You're adulting pretty seriously.
Yeah, it's just great.
it's kind of weird. I want you to stop, but it's a little bit on topic.
See, I did that on purpose.
Okay.
I knew.
Sure.
I didn't do that on purpose. Because we're talking about some fogies today. Mm-hmm. Some super ones.
Yeah. So the Kickstarter we're looking to pitch, why Marc is here, is for the SuperFogeys. From my unfamiliar standpoint, it's a group of superheroes and villains together in an old folks home.
Yep.
Which is called Valhalla.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Gotcha.
That's great. I like that.
And reviewing, Brock is the writer.
Yeah, Brock Heasley's the writer and creator and original artist of the strip. It was all his show he did the first 300 strips. And then I took over on strip number 301, and I've been doing it since. That was back in 2011.
What are you guys up to now?
We're in the high 700s. I forget, to be honest, what exactly, because we're on we've been taking breaks in between each chapter now. So we'll do a chapter, we'll get the art done, or at least a good chunk of it done, and do it kind of like TV shows are produced, and then we'll release it and we'll put it out 2 times a week, usually Mondays and Wednesdays. And then when that chapter's done, then we take a break, kind of regroup our creative juices, and start over.
How'd you come to be a part of the book?
I was invited by Brock. I had done one of the other things he does with SuperFogeys is he's got some spin-off strips called SuperFogeys Origins, which tells backstories of other characters. So you get to see some of the characters who you know as old fogies back when they were young heroes in their prime. Other stories about how characters might have met or different things. And he's been doing those for years and inviting different people in the webcomic circles to draw them on their schedule. And they're usually maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 pages, little short stories. So he had invited me to do a little 2-pager. So I had done that, and then he had gotten to a point where he was kind of burnt out on drawing the strip. And I was doing a webcomic of my own called Spooky Doofus about a moronic ghost and a well-meaning werewolf working together in a retail establishment. And I was getting tired
Is
of
there a
writing
website
it.
for that? Because
You know what? It's so long ago.
very intriguing.
I don't know if the website's still active, but I got really tired of having to write it and coming up with gags and stories and stuff. I love drawing, but the writing it was just becoming stressful because I'd have to come up with what's the strip going to say this week. And so we pretty much arrived at our mutual tiredness of our craft at the same time, and so he reached out to me, and unbeknownst to him, I was getting tired of writing my strip, and so it's like, well, I'm tired of writing, you're tired of drawing, let's get together and do this, and it's been working great ever since.
Nice. A thing I never have been able to keep track of is the webcomics, like, I can't think of the term I want to use right now, just because of how many there are and how many of them like gather together. And a while ago, I remember seeing there was like a contest hosted. I don't remember the host site, but it's like, you know, dared all these different web strips to do a strip a day. And like whoever missed one would kind of drop out. And like it came down to like a couple, like 3 or 4 that were left, like consistently putting out work. And I believe I only saw that because I had met Jenny Breeden of Devil's Panties, because she'll do like a con bust in Northampton sometimes, and I think I saw her at Wizard World Philly way back.
The legendary Wizard World Philly.
Back when they were also still a magazine. And that's where I saw that, and it was interesting seeing like how many strips were on there, and I had like red X's through them because they missed a day. But just like a matter of the community and how everyone like ends up meeting or working together. Which is that Northampton Potato Con? Is that basically?
Yeah, I haven't followed that circle in a while, and I've honestly in the past few years I've kind of stepped out of the webcomics circle. Like I've got my core group of friends around the globe that I kind of fell in with years ago, and I still keep in contact with them and see them every year at New York Comic Con and stuff, but I haven't really been active since I've taken over drawing SuperFogeys. My focus has been just producing it and taking Brock's scripts and drawing them, and that, you know, I've kind of slacked off on the social media aspect of promoting it,
right?
Because I don't really have to. You know, I let Brock do that, and he's much more capable at that kind of stuff. He's much more comfortable, you know, talking things up and promoting things than I am. I just want to sit in my corner and draw.
You're preaching to the choir.
So, you know, since I've taken over Fogeys, I've kind of stepped out. Like I've, you know, all but abandoned my Twitter account. You know, I really can't stand Twitter. The things that go on there, especially the past year or so, I've got no use for it. So.
That's why it's good that there's 2 of us.
Yeah,
because Jar handles our Twitter. Because I don't know anything about how Twit works. Clueless. See?
Yeah.
Just like that.
Yeah. I need to
But he lets me Instagram, so
I do, yeah, I let you. Yeah.
so
And then we both do Facebook.
yeah. Whatever useless that's been.
Yeah, good old Facebook. Facebook.com/opinions may vary.
In the video for the Kickstarter, you know, Brock is pitching everything and he's saying like, look at how good these pages look. So was it when you came on, did you decide like, were you still doing the strip format? Were you doing like more full page kind of?
It's always been strip format. It started out when Brock started it. It was basically like a gag a day kind of thing. It started out as I think somebody had, you know, jokingly said, "Hey, wouldn't it be funny if you had superheroes in an old folks' home?" And then he kind of took it from there, and it very quickly went from this gag a day goofy thing to he started to develop a real story. And so if you read the strip from the beginning, it's kind of goofy gag a day stuff, but then you see the story start to evolve and you really get to know the characters. And Brock's got this entire world, this whole universe built around these characters and their back history and where they're going. And there's, you know, all kinds of things going on. And he takes things that happen in like the bigger mainstream comic book universes and kind of turns them on their head. There's characters that die, and in SuperFogeys, most of the time, if somebody dies, they stay dead.
Mm-hmm.
And if they come back, it's that it was meant to be like their death wasn't really a thing. It was just kind of a swerve. But for the most part, death is death in the SuperFogeys world. But there's all kinds of sci-fi aliens and alternate universes and all kinds of stuff that you would find in every other mainstream universe. But in here, it's all coming out of Brock's mind, and it's all just this incredibly rich tapestry that he's woven out of this simple little concept. Mm-hmm. And so it's been, I was a fan of it prior to even knowing Brock online. I remember stumbling across it. There was, I forget what there was back when MySpace was the thing.
Yeah.
And that's where SuperFogeys started. That's where he first posted his first SuperFogeys strips. There was also another like comics and webcomics creators social platform that I'm blanking on what it was called at the time, mm-hmm. but I remember stumbling across SuperFogeys there, and then kind of getting to know Brock online a little bit through there and through Twitter and Facebook and stuff. And then, so when he reached out to me and says, I'm thinking about ending the strip, I'm, really tired, just don't want to go on with the drawing anymore. Mm-hmm. And, he's reaching out to me to kind of see if I'd be interested in coming on. My main thing was like, well, yes, because I want to see where the story goes. So if I got to be the one to draw it to find out where this goes, then I guess I will do that.
Uh-huh.
So
having something with this much behind it and, mm-hmm. and so much history that's A, already been published, or mm-hmm. B, it's in, this man's head. Mm-hmm. At what point does it get confusing of like, well, we'll just keep going and going and going versus if we have new talent with mm-hmm. new art, at what point do you want to retell something better than the first time you did it?
I don't really have a good answer for that.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you when I first took over the art duties, I made a very conscious effort to try as hard as I could to draw like Brock did. Mm-hmm. I think I failed miserably, in my opinion, but there were some readers who didn't notice. And then I kind of evolved things. He encouraged me to kind of take things in my own direction. I mean, I still try and keep the characters on model as best I can, but mm-hmm. if you read the strip, from his days to where we're at now, you can definitely see there's been an evolution in the character design and an evolution in just how I draw. Mm-hmm. Some of that also comes from evolution in Brock's writing. Since he doesn't have to draw the stuff anymore, he's free to write whatever he wants. Which sometimes means I got to do a lot of heavy lifting, So, when he was drawing it, he could write, just, okay, well, I'll just have these characters talking about the drama. Mm-hmm. Now that he doesn't have to draw that stuff, he can say, well, now I want to explode an entire planet and I want to see bits of debris flying everywhere and millions of people in 3 panels spread, So, sometimes he likes to test me that way. And, since he doesn't have to draw it. So,
right.
But so you can see that evolution in the style. He's amped up the action because one of the things I love to draw is like fight scenes and action. Mm-hmm. And he seems to think I excel at that, so he keeps throwing me more fight scenes and more action. When it used to be just these old people in a nursing home, fighting over strained peas and stuff.
Yeah. 3 panels with a few heads and then word bubbles.
Right. Yeah. And now it's evolved into a something that is right up there with like the Marvel universe.
Now that he doesn't have to draw it.
Yeah. Now I have to draw it. Yeah. So, but I'm always up for the challenge. Mm-hmm. And once in a while we'll do flashbacks to things that have gone on before. And I just kind of draw, and it's really not like a long scene. It's more like referencing something that happened in the past, and I'll try and draw it in my own way. But the way I draw the Fogeys now, it might be drastically different from the way they were originally drawn, but it's still the same sort of thing. It's kind of like if you look at like the 70s Garfield strips and today's Garfield, it's still Garfield.
Yeah.
But you can, if you see the evolution, if you look at the whole span of the character.
It's weird, like while you're reading a strip, like especially one that has a lot of history, you don't necessarily see the changes as they're happening. But like, because I'm a big fan, I'm a huge fan of Penny Arcade. Mm-hmm. And like when I look at the strip now and when I look at the strip in like 2014, when I was still reading it every day, I'm like, God, it looks so different. But like it just, because I read it every time it comes out, like you don't really see it's kind of like weight loss, you know, like I see myself every day, but like my friends see me like once every couple weeks, maybe once every couple months. So like to them, it's a lot more drastic, but to me, it's like, God, I look exactly the same as I did 11 months ago. You know, it's
a lot like the gray in my beard. It's just there. But then I look at a picture of me 10 years ago. Holy cow, that thing was dark. What happened?
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, it's some of it. The evolution of the art, at least since I've taken over, it's also been in my process. I used to do everything traditionally. I used to, just pencil out the strip on Bristol, ink it. I'd scan it and then do the coloring digitally. But for the most part, the drawing was done all traditional. And then I started to deviate into digitally. I would do the roughs digitally, which would give me a little more freedom to play with things. I wouldn't have to spend so much time erasing if I didn't like the position or the composition of a panel. I can kind of like draw the characters and kind of place them in and move them around. And then once I got it, then I would print it out on Bristol and then ink it traditionally. And then I got myself a Cintiq Companion and was able to draw 100% digital. And so if you watch the strips, I can point out exactly when it went digital. The average person viewing might not be able to tell, but if you know what you're looking for, you could definitely tell when I went digital. My inking just got a little bit smoother because now I have the ability to hit Control Z,
right?
And not have to break out the whiteout, and I got the ability to draw bigger, because it's an infinite palette when you're drawing digital, which can sometimes be a detriment because you might want to put in too much detail, and when it shrinks down to strip size, you lose some of that.
Yeah.
But I try and balance it so it's opened up that I can do a little bit more epic stuff than I could if I was just drawing traditional on paper. So that's kind of it's kind of changed how I draw, is going digital. So.
How much freedom do you feel you have when you start illustrating Brock's words and everything?
I've got complete freedom, really. There's been a lot of strips where his script will say, panel 1, this happens, this person says that, panel 2, and the first thing I do is I when I get the scripts, I look and I just see how many panels there are. And I start to break it down from that, because we try and stay to the single strip for the most part. Sometimes it'll have to break out into a double, sometimes a triple, but we try and save those for when it's a special moment or a special point in the story. Like any strip that is in the hundreds and even hundreds number. We do those a little bit bigger, or anything that's a big moment, like a chapter ending or chapter beginning, or we save those bigger format ones for something that means something. So there are times when he'll have something that'll be written for 4 or 5 panels, and there's a lot of dialogue. So that's the next thing I look at, is how much dialogue is there. So how much room do I have to draw this stuff, and then I'll kind of break things down from there. There's been a couple of times where he'll have something written out and I will have a completely different idea of approaching it. Sometimes he'll have things written out that won't work for me. It's just hard for me to grasp. I could see how it would work in animation if this was like a moving thing.
Yeah.
But to break it down to still images to tell a story, sometimes I just have a hard time grasping how am I going to nail this down in like 3 or 4 still images. So I might try and approach it differently that way, or I might just have a different idea. Hey, what if instead of this camera angle, what if we did this? And he's 99.9% of the time is down with whatever I suggest. And usually it's I'm coming at, he's got his story he's writing, and sometimes when you're creating something, the first idea you come up with, you kind of get tunnel vision and you focus on that.
Right.
And then you have somebody from the outside approach and go, what if you did this instead? And it's like, oh, I never thought about looking at it from that angle. So sometimes my input is just that. And he really seems to appreciate that. And we have a good relationship in that way. And then, if it's like creating new characters or new designs for old characters and stuff, we work together on it. I'll throw my ideas out there and send them to him because they're really his characters. And we have very rarely, disagreed on things. And even when we do, it's just kind of like, he'll just say, I would kind of prefer if you did it this way. But that's very, very rare. Usually he gives me the benefit of the doubt on my storytelling skills and experience.
Because one of the pages that pops up on the Kickstarter a couple times, like either in the video, is a giant robot, and like you break the panel, so the robot it's bigger than the panel, and I'm like, that's not a strip, that's an entire page.
Yeah, that's he's done that. There was a strip that he had done before I took over where the characters were, came across this giant monster, and he had done that where, you have the strip, but then the monsters were like breaking out of the top. So I just kind of took that and made it even bigger, and, because we wanted to have an idea of the scale. And that's one great things you can do with webcomics is you're not limited to a page size.
Yeah.
And when we were drawing these, we weren't really thinking how it's going to be formatted in a book. So there's a lot of work that's been put into the book of fitting these pieces together in a way that's going to fit this printed format. And I'm sure that's been tricky. I haven't had any involvement in that, and I'm thankful to not have any involvement in that. I kind of take the pages on a case-by-case basis on what works best at the time.
I had this when you were saying, like, it's got to be a still image. Do you follow Adam Tots?
Yes.
Adam.
Yep.
When like he'll do one of his strips and like somehow throw a GIF in there.
Yeah.
Between the panels.
Yeah.
And like, oh, that's really good. But then if you ever have to print that out and put it in, a bound edition somehow.
Yeah. How do you do that? Yeah.
It's like now you're missing something.
Yeah.
Because the first one I saw was the I'm a Sexy Kitty, and like it's him dressed as a cat for Halloween, but like shivering, so his image is just like shaking the entire time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it's really great. That works perfectly for an internet format. But
yeah, and that's his bigger format too. That's
true.
That's where he's going to get more followers and more shares. You can't open a book and click share.
But then like he's got to make money off of it somehow.
Yeah, true.
You can't sell your internet.
Yeah,
I guess
ads.
I guess that's where Patreon comes in.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Which you guys also have one of those.
We have a Patreon, yep. Which
God, we're good at those segues.
It kind of dries up when we're not producing, because we do a paper strip basically kind of thing. So when there's a live chapter, then the patrons are kicking in money per strip. And then some of that comes to me, some of that goes to Brock. So it's kind of a incentive to produce more strips.
So is that like does the output of that follow like when you're doing your next volume, or like, because as you said, like we'll have some downtime, we'll have some work time, and then some downtime again.
I think we're mostly focused on the story. The Patreon doesn't really drive what we do for strips. We're kind of approaching the end game for SuperFogeys, honestly. A while back, Brock and I had a conversation, and I said, I love drawing the story, but it's not what I want to do forever. And I've known from the beginning that he has an end game in mind. This isn't an infinite universe that he's constructed. He's telling a finite story. That could certainly go on, but there's, every story has a beginning, middle, and end. And so I just I don't want to know what the end is, because I kind of know where it's going, and we're so close to the end now that I kind of know, some of the bigger beats of the story, but I still like to be surprised because I'm still a fan. But we kind of had to have that conversation. Okay, let's come up with the end game. I don't mind if it takes a while to get there, but I just need to know where we're going instead of just constantly just chapter after chapter after chapter. So now we're starting to get into the end game. I think there's a couple of chapters left. The next chapter that's coming up actually is going to be drawn by Brock, which is not something that was originally planned. He came up with an idea for, it's kind of like an offshoot, or not sure the right word for it, but it's still part of the main continuity, but it's like kind of like a different direction, kind of an interlude, if you will,
like a side quest.
I guess, kind of, yeah. That he's decided he wants to get back into drawing, jump into the saddle on that again, and then I will take over again after this little short chapter that he's drawing and get back to the main action. So we kind of, the last chapter ended at a point where a certain character literally could go anywhere, and how that's going to affect the rest of the universe. It's going to have big ramifications for the main story going on, and it's really going to just go full steam ahead into the end game of the story. So this little thing he's drawing kind of is a little interlude in between where we left off to where we're going to come back in.
Okay.
And it's his chance to kind of draw again, and which is great because I love the way he draws. He doesn't give himself enough credit in the art department.
With the content, there's a lot of people that get into comics or drawing, and because they want to draw Wolverine looking badass with Thor's rippling muscles and everything, but then you get this job, you're like, yeah, this guy's got a beer belly, and like who was a spy? Maybe she's kind of wrinkly,
yeah.
And it's like, at what point do you go, well, I wanted to draw a really, I don't know, sexy Scarlet Witch or something,
yeah,
and then it's down to like, no, like these are old people. I mean, the elderly,
yeah,
they're fogies.
There's been I sometimes I'll try to play that up. Sometimes I'll try to like this character Spy Gal is kind of well endowed. She's got a upper deck. That's kind of part of the character design, and sometimes I'll try and be conscious of that and draw as if there's a little bit of heft to them, but not. But it can't be too much because it is a comic book universe where the same character can also go intangible and walk through walls. So you can't have too much reality to it. But I got to be conscious of that. There was one strip where the script required me to draw one of these elderly characters shirtless, not one of the female characters, but one of the really old men characters. So I could draw old man boobs.
Of course,
yeah. Which again is a thing where Brock's writing it, so he doesn't have to draw it. And I'm over here, sketching out, going. I
feel like that realization of like no one goes to art school to learn how to draw liver spots correctly.
Yeah. Arts was funny you mentioned that. I remember before I went to art school just thinking, oh man, you get the life drawing classes. Yeah. I was a teenager and you get those salacious thoughts, and then you get to it and it's like, oh, it's an old balding guy with a weird peenie. Like, I never knew a guy's genitals could do that. But, okay.
Time to draw it.
But I got to look at it. I got to draw it. Yeah.
Look at it.
Yeah, it's an awakening.
And then check it against everyone else's versions too.
Yeah.
Can I move seats?
It's always funny when you get into a class like that. You can tell the people who are kind of way hung up on things, and they got really detailed face and arms, and then the genital area is just like very vague. And then there's people who got really detailed genital area, and then the rest of the pose is just very, very vague. You get to see where people's priorities are.
I made him a Ken doll. Yeah. We're done here.
Well, I'm already through the training part. Like I did faces last semester. This semester's on genitals.
Yeah. And then you got the Rob Layfield just drawing him behind rocks, standing behind rocks.
Of course,
draw the feet,
just yelling with an open, screaming mouth all the time.
I don't remember the model having that many pouches on their person.
Yeah, no, they were there. Where else would they keep?
Just sewn in.
Yeah. No feet though. With SuperFogeys having so much material. 700 plus, correct? So over 700
of the proper strip, yeah.
Right.
Then there's a ton of the SuperFogeys origin stories.
Do you guys? Is it ever tough to think like? Because that's a lot of stuff to try and remember.
Oh my God.
To keep track of.
Yeah, like because even on our show, like I'll start telling a story. I'm like, I just told this story like last year, and like 700 strips. It's like I feel like maybe we've done this gag. Is it tough to?
You have no idea
to get away from that.
You have no idea.
Yeah, because like especially with fans, a lot of people be like. You already made this joke in strip 428.
It's not so much that, it's little details like there's there's a character that now wears an eye patch that didn't used to wear an eye patch.
I was
So
going to
there's been a
pitch
couple
like
of
as an
times-
iPad.
Yeah, there's a couple of times where I'll do the strip and I won't catch it. Brock won't catch it, and it gets published. And then when somebody comments, "Hey, shouldn't Sam have an eye patch? What happened to his eye? Did he get healed?" Oh crap! I got to go back and draw the eye patch on him and post an update. And,
Oh, I thought you were going to say that was like on the wrong eye or something.
well, no, it's never been on the wrong eye. Just sometimes, I'd forget to draw the eye patch, or there's there's at the story point we're at now, there's two universes.
Okay.
And there's a certain way to distinguish who's from which universe. So sometimes I'll have to draw one character from this universe and that the other universe's version of that character.
Okay.
And the distinguishing factor, and I don't want to say too much if for people who may not have read the story. So once you get reading the story, you'll see exactly what that distinguishing feature is.
Okay.
But there's been a couple times where I'll draw, say, Universe A's character, but I'll have the distinguishing feature of Universe B, and it's tough.
It's not supposed to be.
Yes, it is tough.
Yeah.
I constantly have to go back and one of the things. Thank God it's a webcomic because I can just go back to the website.
Yeah.
I can't imagine doing stuff like this for Marvel in the 70s,
Right.
and having to remain in continuity and having to do all this research and go through
Yeah.
microfiches of what the old issues were 20 years ago. The foul you drew, Ulysses Bloodstone. What shirt was he wearing? At least I have the internet and I can remember. Okay, I remember what chapter that was in, so I can go to that chapter and then just kind of scroll through the strips. And I think there's a lot of traffic on the SuperFogeys websites. It's probably just me researching the history so I can draw things properly.
Because stuff like that, like you had said, Wonder Man is wearing his glasses even though they broke.
Exactly.
When Ultron punched him,
Right.
and that's when they would pass out the fabulous No Prize.
The No Prize, yes.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. And now in the age of electronic publication, we don't need the No Prize. We can just say, "Oh, sorry, we screwed up here. We fixed it." I mean, once a comic book is printed, it's printed. You can't go back and redo it, but you can always post an update.
Unless you want to waste a lot of money pulping an issue. They did that with what? Saga had that happen.
Oh, the cover was too
where
dark.
The cover was too dark.
Yeah.
Oh.
The recalls.
And then there was I can't remember. Wasn't there also a missing page or something like that? I can't remember. But I feel like every now and then, even I mean, they didn't pulp Batman's Hangdown, but
they changed it for the online version.
Yeah. And I think subsequent releases were they edited. I think the trade
they had
or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I try to collect those recalled issues.
No,
I found a website that has a whole bunch of them, and that's on my list of things I want to try and find and keep now. Because I'm.
Do you have a Grail recalled issue?
I'm an idiot. I don't think so. I have 4 or 5 issues of Naked Elektra.
When was that?
She's not actually naked. It's just all they did was they took it was from one of Marvel Knight's, they're adult-ish titles, and she's meditating, and then someone breaks in and she starts fighting them, and they just made it look like she's wearing just black sports bra instead.
Right.
But everything's covered up in some manner because comics.
Right.
But they're just we don't want to do this anymore. We're just gonna have someone throw black Sharpie over it, and now it looks like an outfit. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great. A lot of money.
When it comes to doing the Kickstarter stuff, one of the I'm always intrigued by just the Kickstarter process. Pardon if this is more Brock's thing or your thing, if it was a combination, but there's multiple videos as you scroll down. There's not just one piece of information and then we're done. Now give us money. There's if you look at some bad Kickstarters, that's all it is.
Yeah.
It's a picture and then give me money, please. There's a lot of content as you go through to keep you invested or to convince you to invest more. And I dig that.
So, that's pretty much all Brock.
Yeah.
We've got our publishers, if you will, Third World Studios have been kind of in our corner and putting the website up there and keeping us online for years,
Mm-hmm.
and throwing their support behind the book. The Kickstarter is the lion's share of the funds, but
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, that kind of stuff, all the videos and the content, that's Brock putting all that together.
Mm-hmm.
The videos especially, that's one of his other gigs is doing movies and short films and things like that. So he's much more adept at that,
Mm-hmm.
and much more comfortable with that. Like, I don't mind talking and I don't mind being in front of the camera, but I do have a bit of social anxiety. So whereas he doesn't appear to, so he seems much more comfortable with that sort of thing, and talking up the SuperFogeys, whereas I just kind of like, yeah, I draw it. It's a thing I do.
Did you pitch any ideas for stretch goals or?
I did throw one out there. I have the original art from the first two pages I did for the SuperFogeys Origins before I became the regular artist, and I offered those up as like a big perk
I saw that.
for a big donor.
Was that tough to part with?
Not really. No, it's
Fair.
Yeah, I hate my old art.
It's the artist lament. Like
Yeah.
any artist working now, like hates what they made years ago.
Yeah, I hate looking at my old art. I do not have. I don't have any of my art hanging up in my studio. Most of the art in my studio is art that I've either prints from artists that I admire or other art from other artists and friends, and just stuff that I've collected. I don't like looking at my old art.
Rarely have we ever met someone who's like, "Yeah, I'm real good.
I
made this real good thing. It's 10 years old."
I mean, it was a little, I guess it's been claimed now, so I'm gonna have to, when the Kickstarter's over, pack it up and figure out where I'm shipping it to. But it was a little bit of a bittersweet because it is kind of a bit of history, but for the most part, I mean, I looked at it, it's like, honestly, it's just been sitting on a shelf for years in a pile of other stuff. So
now,
it's not doing anybody any good. So
if the person who bought it is listening, it was a really important piece to you. It was a super.
Well, it is a very important piece personally because it represents the beginning of a very long good relationship artistically. But I don't like looking at my old art. I have no.
Is that the one that was hanging at the Bing in Springfield?
It might have been,
because I recall commenting on the Money Man.
Nope, that wasn't it though.
No,
that was one of the regular strips
from
the story. Yeah, this was from a story called When Tom Met Miss Missile. Ms. Missile is the daughter of the villain Dr. Rocket. Adopted daughter. She's from an alien race. He just kind of stole her away, kind of like Odin and Loki kind of situation. And Tom is the son of Captain Spectacular, who was the big hero of SuperFogeys. And so it's when they met and they kind of, they eventually form a relationship in the strip. And this SuperFogeys Origins tells when they first met and how those seeds were planted. And it's just a little 2-page interlude how they bump into each other and take an elevator ride together. So it's a real simple thing, not a lot of action and not a lot of stuff going on. But it's an important moment because it's my first official SuperFogeys artwork. And then, that's what got me into doing the strip proper forever.
Cool.
Having done this for so long, are you an avid webcomic reader yourself?
Not really, no.
I feel that.
I used to be, but I spent so much time making SuperFogeys and just doing my own thing. I just like to do a lot of drawing, a lot of sketching. I mean, some people do like Inktober as their motivation to draw every day, and I'm already drawing every day anyway, so I might as well do Inktober. I just like drawing and doing all kinds of geeky stuff, and if I can land some cool gigs, great. I've done some interesting, weird things.
Can I ask about? I don't think you spotted this yet, JR.
Probably not.
Your Alice Cooper series.
Yes, that was 2 years ago for Inktober. I'm a huge Alice Cooper fan. Have been for years. I admire the man's music. I think the original Alice Cooper group is one of my favorite rock bands, hands down. I also admire him as a person. You know, he's not so he's very like into the religion, born again stuff, and I respect that. It's not for me, but I respect that, and I respect how he's pulled himself out of alcoholism and focused himself into golf. And as a working professional, his tour schedule is basically like a family business. So I get a lot of respect for him. I love his music. I love the whole macabre thing. I love Halloween. So every year for Inktober, I try and come up with a different theme, different challenge for myself. One year I was like just did nothing but Post-it notes. I did sketches on Post-it notes. That was my theme. And so this year, 2 years ago now, I decided I'm going to do, interpret the lyrics of a different Alice Cooper song every day. So I would take a passage, pick one of my favorite songs and just scan the lyrics, pick a passage that kind of spoke to me visually and do a little cartoon of it. And I, if you look through them, they're on my Instagram, which I'm Instagram at Marktoons, MarCtoons. They're all on there, and they're all done in a very silly way, because I think that's something that people take for granted with Alice Cooper. It's always like all the blood and the chopping the head off and the spiders and the snakes and all the gore and the Halloween stuff. He's hilarious. Yeah. He's got some funny stuff, and he's got a great sense of humor. Yeah. So I want to incorporate kind of a little bit of Alice Cooper by way of Mad Magazine kind of thing. So I did 31 drawings of different Alice Cooper songs and posting one every day. And then towards the end of that month, then it was announced that he was going to be a guest at the Rhode Island Comic Con that year. So my wife and I took a road trip out there, and I had, this was in early November of 2016. So I had taken my book, my sketchbook that I'd drawn them all in, and went up to get his autograph in the book. And so it's in there to this day. And that was one of my coolest moments, meeting one of my heroes, getting to shake his hand, having him look at my artwork and approve of it. And I remember one of the folks working the table where, if you get the table of all the 8x10s you can purchase, and she's like, so, what would you like to have Alice Cooper sign?
I got this.
I was like, no, I brought my own book. I just, and I showed her. So I got my sketchbook that, I did all, a different song each day throughout the month of October. And she's looking, she's like, oh, this is great. He's going to love this. It's fantastic. She's like, which one are you going to have him sign? I'm like, what? No, I got blank pages that he's going to sign. I wouldn't have him ruin one of my drawings. So they got a big laugh out of that. So it got to be my turn to go up to him, and he's flipping through. He's like, oh, these are great. He's looking at all, and he's showing all the people that work the table with him, and so I asked him to pick his favorite. And there's a photo I've got on my Facebook and on my Instagram of him holding the sketchbook. And I asked him, do you mind if I take a picture of you? Because I know that they do the photo ops for celebrities, and sometimes they don't. Some conventions are more militant about it than others.
You gotta pay.
Yeah. No selfies at the autograph area.
Right. So I didn't ask for selfies. I just want to. Would you mind if I just got a picture of you holding the sketchbook?
Right.
And he's like, oh, absolutely. Like, all right, which one do you want? I was like, well, pick your favorite. So I flipped through, and I had done one of him kind of as James Bond, and so he's like, oh yes, I love this James Bond one. So he got a picture of him holding my artwork, which was nice. An incredible thrill. And I walked away and giddy as a little girl, giggling.
That's awesome.
Yay.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Those are fun stories.
Oh yeah.
I like those.
Yeah. So people say don't meet your heroes, but you just approach it realistically. And like if you really are a fan of someone, you can kind of get an idea of them, especially nowadays with social media and stuff, what kind of person they are. And it's pretty easy to tell who could be an a-hole and who is genuinely cool. And he always struck me as somebody who would be genuinely cool to meet, and he was. After
enough conventions, like we've gotten, to the acceptance level of like, maybe they're having a bad day.
Yeah.
Like because I think my favorite example is Tim Sale. We met him one year at some convention, and he was pretty cool. And then like a different year, it was a different guy, and he was a little grumpy, and a little short tempered, and it's like, is Tim Sale a jerk? No, that was just a bad day.
Yeah.
Next year he was great. Yeah, smiling, shaking hands. So it's just you don't know when you're going to catch people, so don't let that become their entire existence in your head.
And also sometimes you got to remember, like, just because you know them They don't know you.
Yeah.
You're a stranger to them, and some people
We're not best friends.
Yeah, some people forget that, and they approach celebrities or heroes of whatever craft you're in, and they forget that there's a boundary there.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
So I always, whenever I meet people like that, I don't go out of my way to do that, but a few times I'll if I run into somebody accidentally at a convention, or I'll make it my mission to go, oh, this person I want to get an autograph from. I just try to talk to them as if they're a human being. Yeah. And not be like, oh, remember that time you were on that show and you did that thing? Yeah, it's awesome.
That was cool.
Yeah. Like I'm at Boston Comic Con this year. I'm a huge James Bond fan, and Famke Janssen was there. Yeah. And I was like, all right, I'll splurge.
Yo, Goldeneye's top tier.
Yeah. So get an autograph from Xenia on the top. So, it got to be my turn to get up to her, and she, she was a little, not chatty. Like there were some people, like it was funny to see. You see some celebrities coming out from behind the table, and just greeting everybody with open arms, and taking selfies and stuff. And then she was just kind of behind the table, very reserved. And, I don't fault her for that. No. Like I had a little small talk about how busy the day was and stuff, and then I just went on my way. And it wasn't like a super warm greeting, moment, but I don't. I don't like meeting strange people myself, so I can just imagine, like, if my job forced me, or not so much forced me, but afforded me the ability to go to a convention and sit behind a table and make money for just signing
meeting
8x10s, I would do it, but I wouldn't be 100% comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Especially meeting weird old dudes with gray beards and stuff, So I can see where she'd be coming from if she's got, some, just social issues and, doesn't really
I can't think
want
of his
to interact.
Name. Who's Captain Jack?
John Barrowman.
Not everyone can be John Barrowman.
Yes, exactly.
Don't hold hand. Don't, like, it's not fair to the rest of humanity to compare everyone to him.
Yeah.
It's like you'll always have a good time meeting John Barrowman.
Yeah,
but it might not work out for everyone else.
In kind of a side, this is a weird deviation, but now I'm interested. Have you ever had someone where you met, like, at a convention where you were expecting, like, maybe to be a little reserved, maybe kind of like I'm probably butchering her name, Famke. But it turns out, oh no, they're actually, because like Alex got to meet Giancarlo Esposito at Hartford Comic Con a couple years ago.
Yep.
And like when you're expecting Gus Fring, and you get this like exuberant, smiling joy. He's yelling. He's having he's calling everyone baby. Like. Just having a great time.
That convention. I was at that convention. I didn't get to go meet him, but I remember seeing him walking around after the convention was done, and just going around to random vendors and just greeting people and being super friendly.
I was in line, and like the people in front of us finish up, and he goes, "Come on, baby!" It's like, what's happened? Like, I have one of his box cutters right over there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
He held it to your throat.
He did.
Nice.
And then like we took a picture. I was like, I bought a picture as well. Jared took it. And like he just snapped into character, and like gave a death glare to the camera. Yeah. I thought I might die. I didn't.
That's a good death, though.
I'd be okay with that.
If I'm gonna go out that way. But have you ever had like that one of those experiences that you can recall?
Yeah, you know what? At the Scaricon in Springfield, Mass. Last year, Sid Haig was a guest, and
why do I know that name?
Captain Spaulding.
That's it. Yep.
Which if you look up his IMDb, he has got ridiculous credits. He has been in everything. Every TV show you've ever watched in the 80s and the 70s and beyond. He was on Batman. Like the 60s Batman show.
Way back?
Like way back in the day. Like if you do a deep dive into his credits, he's been around and he's done some stuff. So, that was my little splurge. I was going to go over to him and get him to sign my House of 1,000 Corpses DVD. And I had drawn a little sketch card a while ago of his character of Dragos, I believe, from Jason of Star Command. It was a kid's sci-fi show from the 70s. And he was, the evil villain and, this goofy costume. And I remember it scaring the crap out of me as a kid. And he's a big guy, too, when you meet him in person. He's rather tall and, slow moving, because he's advancing in age, too. But he's, because he's tall, lumbering, scary looking guy. He's still got the Captain Spaulding beard and stuff, So I went over to his table and I gave him the sketch card of his character,
Mm-hmm.
and he seemed genuinely pleased with that. And he's like, "Oh, this is great." And I just said, I remember, my first experience with you was seeing you as this character as a kid and scaring the crap out of me." And then he tells me the story of that's how he got the House for the Thousand Corpses gig, because
shit.
Rob Zombie pretty much said the same thing to him and said, "You scared the crap out of me when I was a kid on Jason Star Command, so I want you to be in my movie and scare the crap out of people." And, so then I was chatting with him about his history and how long his IMDb credit list is. He's like, that doesn't even list half of it.
If only you knew.
So then I asked him if he'd sign my DVD,
Mm-hmm.
and so he signed the DVD cover for me. And so I said, "How much do I owe you?" And he's like, "No, don't worry about it. You gave me this." And it was, a little sketch card. And to me, my sketch cards, my art means nothing to me. It's got no value to me, so I don't mind just giving it out. Here, you like it? Here, take it, whatever. Yeah. It's like, what has value to me is meeting really cool people. And he was very nice, very, almost like a kindly grandfather, in a way, which you think Captain Spaulding and some of the tough guys he's played in TVs and movies. You don't expect that.
He might gut you at any minute.
Yeah. But he was just this
Probably will.
this cuddly teddy bear, kindly grandpa kind of guy, and he was like, "No, you gave me this. You're good." And then, sat down and took a picture with him, and he was just a super sweet guy.
That's really cool. Yeah. That's a fun story.
Yeah.
That's not everyone has those.
Yeah.
But like, it takes a little bit of work.
Yeah.
all these times, like, I'm thinking of how often I bash conventions for calling themselves a Comic-Con, and then just hosting 100 celebrities and having like 5 artists, and I'm like, "Oh, it's stupid."
I feel like
we've been talking about celebrities for the past 10 minutes.
But like, we don't like we do say the whole like Sadness Alley thing, but and we don't typically go for celebrities. But our main criticism is that you call yourself a Comic-Con when your main focus is celebrities, and comic creators are clearly not the focal point.
Right.
Don't call yourself like even a fan expo.
Yeah.
It bugs me when you say Comic-Con. Cool. What comic creators am I going to meet? Oh, I'm going to meet the entire cast of Battlestar Galactica. Cool. It's just I think that's mainly what
Who was it?
I'm trying to justify our mocking of
Jimmy, was it Palmiotti? He had a post a while ago saying there was a point where comic creators who were invited to a convention got to hang out in the same green room as the celebrities.
Right. Yeah. Now it's like, no, you don't get to be with the celebrities.
You're not on that level.
Yeah.
And they're
You're
like,
not,
bullshit.
Yeah.
No, I can see that. I think at this point, Comic-Con has become such a generic term like Kleenex.
Right.
Yeah.
People use the term Comic-Con to discuss, to talk about any convention. Just the average Joe, just Comic-Con. And
then there's geeks like me who will be like, no. Connecticut's a different kind of we have to explain every minute like difference.
Yeah, I've had a few people like, "Oh, you're going to Comic-Con?" I'm like, "No, I'm going to New York Comic-Con. That's different."
I'm going to a day show. It costs 99 cents to get in.
Yeah. I've had a lot of good experiences at various conventions meeting, comic professionals, and I get a much bigger kick out of that. And I fanboy harder over that kind of stuff than I do over the celebrity actors. I've had a few celebrity encounters, and I appreciate them, and it's really cool. It makes for cool pictures, but the memories I cherish
probably
the most,
a lot more with the comic creators.
Yes, yeah, like there's been a couple times that I've been at New York Comic-Con, and I'll be walking by and I'm like, oh crap, there's Neil Adams, and I can actually shake Neil Adams' hand,
for free.
Gotta pay for it.
This was a few years ago, so before he had the giant 30x30 booth. With
he's got like a full piece of real estate
before the mini Neil Adams con.
I bought a print from him at Boston Comic-Con this past year, and there wasn't a lot of people in the booth, and as an artist, it was a great moment because I got to chat with him and mentioned that I draw a little. Is basically how,
I dabble.
He can be hit or miss. So I feel he got lucky.
He was very personable.
Nice.
He just gave me this whole instruction of stuff he learned from his younger days, learning from this Japanese art teacher on how to properly hold a brush and how to properly ink, and and it was a really cool moment. And
what print did he get?
There was a Batman print where he's it's a pencil drawing print. So that's how the conversation started. 'Cause I like that kind of stuff. I love seeing unfinished art or the original art before it's been printed. I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I like to see how the process works. I like to see the artist's hand in the work before it gets like inked and colored and polished and finished and has logos on it and stuff. So I bought that print because it's very sketchy. And then I had asked him if there was a finished version of that, if that was used for something. And so we got talking about that, and that's how we got on the whole thing, how to properly hold a brush and not hold it like an ape, like Americans do. So it's a really cool. It's just white with a pencil drawing of Batman, full body shot, and he's got he's swinging his cape around, catching some bullets in his cape. And, it's a really cool piece.
Nice.
Yeah, I remember running into Jim Steranko at New York Comic Con. That was, I didn't even know he was there. I just kind of like, turned my head, and there he is. He's got a table, so I bought a print from him and got to chat with him for a while and shake his hand.
Yeah.
And, it's funny how some of these old timey legend guys have these iron fists. Handshakes.
They're strong.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I shook Joe Kubert's hand one time at New York, and it's like, my God, what an iron grip this guy had.
It's unfortunate Stranko doesn't like pictures.
Yeah,
but that's why he keeps his sunglasses on all the time.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I was just incredibly pleased to just be meeting him and chatting with him. And it was funny. The person, his handler or the helper at the table, or whatever, was watching me like a hawk to make sure I paid for my print. And I was very aware that he was watching me, and I'm like, don't worry, I'm paying. Here's the money.
Here is the money.
Meanwhile, Jim was just like happy to have someone to chat to,
Yeah.
and at the time, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was just coming out, so we're talking about that, and I was asking about rumors you hear about his life, and his escape artist past, and he's like, oh yeah, that's all true, and blah blah blah.
Our friend Justin talked to him about that. I don't recall if he brought anything for him. So we're friends with illusionist David Garrity. He's worked with us at local theme park for a long, long time, and so he has a book, a manual of all these different methods of doing illusion stuff and escapist stuff. And there's a Steranko method of escape named after Jim Steranko.
Nice.
Yeah, and so I think the plan was at some point was that Justin was going to get that chapter signed.
Yeah.
I don't know if it actually came up. I don't know if I made it up or if it actually happened at some point.
You just wanted me to do it.
Yeah. There's also an episode of Leverage where blonde girl can't escape a thing that she stole from because the entire floor was a Steranko vault. And they put his name in
nice.
there. Yeah.
Look at that.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a nice thing. As we are getting low on time, which is a sad thing. We mentioned Kickstarter. SuperFogeys is currently on Kickstarter as of today. I mean, this episode will be up later today. So if you're listening today or within the next 5 days, you do still have a chance to back the SuperFogeys Kickstarter. You can go take a look, get a book, get some art, you can get a bunch of stuff.
We're real close to a stretch goal of getting the origins of the 6 wives of Captain Spectacular.
What? That's a lot of wives.
Which that made me chuckle. I was like, I really hope it makes it.
That's quite a story, that one.
You'll want to see it.
He's had some histories.
If you're listening to this later on, you can still check out, it's because it's you can read it. It's superfogeys.com. Or you can. Do you know if the book is going to be available for resale after?
I would think so. To be honest, I'm just the art guy.
Right. Just living the dream.
Yeah, I just let the actual formatting of the book and the publishing of the book. There's better people involved in that. Let the better brains prevail on that. I'm just an art monkey.
So you can go and you can check that out, read up and learn about some old people who fight crime. Also, Mark, you mentioned your Instagram, Mark Tunes. I've actually been lurking it for the last couple of minutes now. It's really great. Is there anywhere else that you wanted to plug, or is it mainly the Instagram?
No, pretty much Instagram's where I'm the most active. Facebook too a little bit, but that's I don't really do much publicly on Facebook. I'll my posts for art are public on Facebook, but I also post pictures of my kids and stuff there. And I'm not super paranoid. I've got people who are like super paranoid that like they won't post a picture of their kids. They will do a Michael Jackson, put a bag over their head before they post a picture, kind of thing. I'm not that paranoid about it, but it's that's more my life. Instagram is just mostly my art. Sometimes I'll post pictures of my old records and stuff. And,
I saw the Baby Driver soundtrack. God damn, is that a great record?
Oh my God, yes.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
My wife got me that as a gift because she knew I was obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And like it's one of those things you can put on. Like there's a little bit of everything. It's so good.
I picked that up from the Cinemark movie theaters have an app and you earn points and so they had that as a reward, and I was like, I got enough points for that. I'm gonna get that. Boom.
That's a good reward.
God, it really is.
It's such a good soundtrack.
Do you also take freelance commission work?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll pretty much draw whatever people pay me to draw. I'm always up for interesting gigs, and
sometimes
I've
that's one of our questions.
Yeah.
Like, what do you turn down?
Yeah, well, I do have kids, so I don't get into anything too salacious. But
who was it? One of the juniors who drew Kick-Ass. Him.
John
Romita.
Yeah. He was like, I was getting my scripts and I couldn't let my kid watch me draw anymore.
Yeah.
Who was that, Miller? And Miller was like, oh, I didn't realize your son watches you draw.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of in the family.
Yeah. Yeah. My youngest will come into my studio and she takes it over. It becomes her homework castle. And I'm not really doing much work and just helping her with her homework then. But she likes coming in there and putting on records and looking at the art I have on my walls and stuff.
That sounds like a great time, to be honest.
And like you said earlier, when you were like, my art just means whatever to me. It was a while ago. Was that you? That was all. You would also draw on your packages that you would mail out to?
Yeah, I do that anytime I send out. I had run an Etsy shop for a while. I kind of closed that down because it kind of like petered out, and I just didn't have the energy into putting more up. And it's like, how many prints can I really sell? How many prints do people need? And I don't really have much else to put up there, and it just got to be kind of cumbersome to run that and have a day job and raise a family and stuff. So I just kind of close it down. But if people commission me for something, I've had some people on Instagram reach out and ask me to do something. So anytime I send out mail for something like that, if somebody buys a print from me or buys a commission from me or whatever, I always draw something on the envelope. It's just fun, and people seem to like it. They get a bonus artwork. So.
Right. But now I can't throw this envelope.
Yeah. I guess I'm having an environmental impact on that. You're not recycling anymore.
Why do you have a random envelope that has like the grind marks in it from going through the system? And why is it in a frame on the wall? It's art. Look at it.
Mind your business. That's why.
It's funny, actually. I don't want to go off on a long tangent on a story if we're running out of time, but one of my envelope arts actually landed me some of my coolest gigs I've had lately.
Shit.
I had a print of Jay and Silent Bob dressed as the Breaking Bad characters, in like the fumigation suits and stuff. And somebody had ordered that print from me, so I packed it up, and it was around Christmas time, so I drew Jay and Silent Bob in kind of a Christmassy thing. Silent Bob had a Santa's hat on, and Jay had these big goofy antler headband thing on. And I had posted a picture on Instagram, and then I get an email a while later from what turned out to be Jay Muse's wife, asking me if they'd be able to use that artwork for their Christmas cards for Smodco.
Right.
And so, well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just a sketch on an envelope that I just took a picture of, so I'll be happy to draw it for real.
Do you want a better one?
Yeah, so I've done for 3 years in a row. I've done their Christmas cards for Smodco.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
nice.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's a nice little gig.
It's okay. That's dope.
Yeah, it was it's kind of weird. I'll do the artwork and then I'll get an email back from her. I go, okay, well, I'm going to run this by Jay and Kevin, and Kevin loves it, so we're going to go with them. I'm like, awesome.
Yeah, just Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes. It is what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
That's rad. Congratulations on the SuperFogeys success. Kickstarter is currently sitting at about 200% funded, which is pretty rad.
Yes.
5 days to go. You can go check that out. If like I said, if you're listening to this later on, check out superfogeys.com. Check out Mark on Instagram. Mark, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me.
This was rad.
Yeah.
I need to go read about old people now. Specifically superpowered ones. Not just regular old people. So
AARP.
All right, yeah. I think that's gonna do it. We're pretty much fogied out. So until next time, I have been JR.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Mark.
And this has been episode 347 of Opinions May Vary.